Good morning, everybody. This is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. I hate recording in front of people, but it will be impossible not to encounter some people out here. But we are on the horse racing track. As you can see, these are the bulls and everything and horses that are involved in the rodeo that is going to be occurring tonight. They have some great content for you guys today, but first, just talk a little bit about the fair. Today is Saturday, July 23rd at 8 a.m. to 3:30. We've got the arts and crafts at Founders Square. There's a children's petting zoo, which I saw yesterday. It was closed, but they have a kangaroo, so I want to get some pictures of that and of the art exhibits to upload to my Instagram so you guys can see all that stuff. And then tonight, there's the Harper Morgan PRCA Rodeo. And at 10 p.m., Dr. Czar's Amazing Funk Monster will be playing at Founders Square so people can go dancing. Hello. Now, since I am here with family, but basically most of my family is much older than I am, so I'm going to have to try to get out and be a little more social on my own. Fortunately, I've got almost a decade of door knocking experience, so that shouldn't be too tough. And today, the topic I'd like to discuss is the Powell Memorandum. So, there's a book written by Noam Chomsky, who's an accomplished linguist, kind of a controversial figure, but he does do a ton of great research. The book I'm talking about is Requiem for the American Dream, the 10 Principles of Concentration of Wealth and Power. So, in this book, he goes over a document that was released by Supreme Court Justice Lewis F. Powell Jr. in 1971. So we got to put ourselves back then. So in the 60s, there was the civil rights movement and a lot of upward economic mobility. People were doing well in America, generally speaking. And the business interests saw this, and it was coming at their expense. Power and wealth are a zero-sum concept. So whenever somebody gains power or wealth, it has to come from somewhere else, generally. Now, this document, the Powell Memorandum, was released in 1971, and it was a response to the democratizing wave that occurred in the 60s. There is a similar document released in 1975 called The Crisis of Democracy by the Trilateral Commission, which is on the other end of the spectrum. So both the left and right wings elites were beginning to conspire against the aspirations of the American people at this time. Previously, passive parts of the population had mobilized in the 60s. This includes like women, minorities, young folk, and the working class. And then Noam Chomsky details a couple of interesting occurrences that happened after this. So like in the 70s, there's tons of student protests and stuff, like against the Vietnam War and everything. And a lot of that was enabled by the unique architecture that was built during this time. However, if you look at modern colleges, there's a lot less public spaces. It's kind of impossible to connect cause and effect here. Another interesting occurrence is back whenever Noam Chomsky was going to college, it was pretty uncommon for kids to graduate with debt. Now, it's not uncommon at all for students to graduate with tens and thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Now, what that does is it kind of forces our young people, it limits their opportunities. If you've got hundreds of thousands of debt and you cannot declare bankruptcy on it, then you kind of have to get a regular job, you know? Then there's also the changes that occurred in younger schools, such as the No Child Left Behind policies, kind of undermines creativity, teaching to the test and all that. Now, the actual document, the Powell Memorandum, has a few interesting quotes. I'll drop a link to the document in the description below, so if you guys want to check it out. But this just gives you like a tone of what the business elites. This is written by a Supreme Court justice, and it was a call to arms for American businesses, essentially, to retake power. So one of the most interesting quotes was, "No thoughtful person can question that the American economic system is under broad attack. This varies in scope, intensity, techniques employed, and the level of visibility. Perhaps the single most effective antagonist of American business is Ralph Nader. A recent article in Fortune speaks of Nader as follows. The man... Sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second. So, this is in the Powell Memorandum, talking about Nader. The passion that rules in him, and he is a passionate man, is aimed at smashing utterly the target of his hatred, which is corporate power. For those of you who don't know who Ralph Nader is, he was a very prominent activist during the 60s and 70s that spoke out against concentrated power. I think he actually helped prosecute Exxon Valdez or something like that. I'm not an expert on Nader. He still is around, but he's been kind of sidelined by the media. So now that right there is him kind of describing the business class perspective of what was happening in America at the time. And he goes on in the document to kind of talk about how to respond. So the overriding first need is for businessmen to recognize the ultimate issue may be survival. So he was telling businessmen that Americans regaining power was threatening to a business. And he goes on to very directly call them out. It is time for American business, which has demonstrated the greatest capacity in all history to produce and to influence consumer decisions, to apply their great talents vigorously to the preservation of the system itself. So he's directly saying that business interests, business owners need to start shaping public opinion and ideology actively. Yep. And so that right there, all of that comes from the book that was written by Noam Chomsky. I'll go over, he's got quite a bit more stuff that talks about the concentration of wealth and power. It's kind of hot out here today. It was raining earlier. It's no longer raining, but just check out all of these really cool cabins. Again, the Neshoba County Fair has almost 600 of these fair cabins. It's basically a week-long house party, which is totally not my element. But I'm almost 30 and I really need to learn how to socialize a little better. I spend a ton of time by myself and pretty much always have ever since I was a young child. Fortunately, my door knocking years definitely helped out a lot in regards to my ability to speak with people and to articulate my thoughts. But yeah, that's really all I have for you guys today. There have been a very concentrated effort by the elites on both the left and the right to subdue the American working class since at least the 70s. We have documents, and I'll drop them in the links in the description below to kind of support these claims. As always, this is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, a wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. What are you guys doing in order to inspire, uplift, and empower your communities today? Because this world isn't changing unless we all do our part, and you can count on me to do mine daily. Until next time, love y'all.